All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to put on our detective hats to solve a huge mystery in the tech world. The mystery? Why do so many projects fail? Well, the clues often point back to one critical moment, that very first system investigation. Let's crack this case together. So, let's start with the big question. It's one that haunts boardrooms and development teams everywhere. You've got a great idea, right? A talented team, a solid budget. So why is it that so many of these projects end up way over budget, hopelessly behind schedule, or sometimes just completely missing the mark?
And here's the thing. The answer, more often than not, isn't some complex technical bug. Nope, the real culprit is usually a failure that happens right at the very beginning. The case goes cold before it even really gets started, all because of a breakdown in that most critical phase, the initial investigation.
Every single project begins with a need. Someone, somewhere in the organization, decides an existing system has to be changed, or improved, or enhanced in some way. This is ground zero. This is where our story starts and where the case is officially opened.
This first step, the initial investigation, is all about figuring out if the request is actually valid and, even possible to do. You can think of it like a preliminary hearing in a court case. Is there even enough evidence here to proceed? It all kicks off with that first formal request from a user. Now, a good detective never just rushes into a crime scene, right? They need a strategy. In our world, that strategy is called the MIS Master Plan. That's for Management Information Systems. This plan is basically the blueprint for the entire investigation. It lays out the steps, the people involved, and what you're trying to achieve. Without it, you're pretty much just fumbling around in the dark. And this gets to the absolute heart of why that plan is so critical. Listen, the success of the entire project hinges on this one moment. If you define the wrong problem, you are going to build the wrong solution. It doesn't matter how brilliant your code is. Getting this problem definition right isn't just important, it is everything.
So this MIS plan, it kind of operates on three different levels. Up at the top, you've got the strategic focus. That's the big picture, long-term goals. Then in the middle, the managerial level is all about connecting that grand strategy to the day-to-day operations. And then at the base, you have the operational level. This is where you get down to the nitty-gritty, defining specific system requirements with a ton of user involvement.
Okay, let's move on to our first piece of tangible evidence, the user request form. This document is the formal trigger for the whole shebang. It's really the first solid clue our analyst detective has to work with, and believe me, it is packed with vital information. So on this form, you're looking for the essential clues. What is the real purpose of this request? What's the payoff? What are the expected benefits? What does it take in? And what's it supposed to produce? And super important, who signed off on this? Every single one of these details helps the analyst build that initial picture of the case.
Now comes the really hard part, questioning the witnesses. And in our case, the witnesses are the users. This can seriously feel like trying to navigate a labyrinth. Users don't always know exactly what they need, or they might really struggle to explain it. A good analyst has to be ready for a few common, let's call them strategies, that users tend to use.
First up is what I call the kitchen sink strategy. This is super common with users who are afraid they might leave something important out. So what do? They throw every single possible feature they can think of into the requirements. It's a classic case of just-in-case thinking.
You've probably heard this before, right? It's that just-in-case approach that can completely bloat a project from the get-go, leading to huge delays and budget overruns. A good analyst's job here is to act as a filter, to gently guide the user to separate the absolute must-haves from the nice-to-haves. Next up, we have the smoking strategy. This is where the user creates a giant smoke screen of requests to hide what they actually need. Maybe they're worried that their smaller core request won't be taken seriously, so they bury it in this long list of other features to make it seem more important. The detective work here is to cut through all that smoke. See, if an analyst just takes this list at face value, the team could waste months building a bunch of unnecessary features. The real job is to find the signal in all that noise and uncover the true core request. And finally, we have the same thing strategy. This one often points to a user's lack of knowledge about what's actually possible with new technology, or maybe it's just a lack of effort to really think through the underlying problem. Oh, this is a classic, and a really dangerous one. The risk here is that you end up just digitizing a totally broken process. What you get is a faster, more expensive version of the exact same old problem. A great analyst knows they have to dig deeper here and ask why the process is the way it is in the first place.
So, when you're faced with all these challenges, what's a detective to do? Well, they open up their toolkit. A skilled analyst has a whole set of proven methods and tools to get past the smokescreens, decode the requests, and find the real truth of the matter.
An analyst's toolkit really has 3 core strategies. The most direct is simply asking, using interviews and brainstorming sessions to uncover what people really need. The second is to study the existing system, to analyze what's already there to understand the current workflows. And the third is prototyping, building a simple, working model that lets users actually see and feel the solution, which almost always helps them refine what they want. Now, when analyzing an existing system, the analyst has 2 main tools. For pretty straightforward, structured problems, like say optimizing an inventory report, they'll use data analysis to see what information is being used. But for the messy, unstructured problems, like trying to figure out why customer satisfaction is dropping, they'll use decision analysis. That's all about breaking a big, fuzzy problem down into smaller, more solvable parts.
And to gather all this great information, the analyst uses some classic, tried-and-true fact-finding tools, reviewing written documents like manuals and reports, making on-site observations to see how things actually work, conducting one-on-one interviews, and sending out questionnaires to get input from a much wider group of people.
So, after all the evidence has been gathered, the witnesses have been questioned, and all the clues have been analyzed, we finally arrive at the goal of our investigation, a clear, final verdict. And this right here, this is what success looks like. The case is officially solved when the real problem has been stated so clearly that it's completely understood and, this is the critical part, agreed upon by both the user and the analyst. This shared understanding is the rock-solid foundation for everything that's about to come next.
So I'll just leave you with the question you see on this slide. Before you start building the solution, are you absolutely sure you found the real problem? Because building a brilliant solution to the wrong problem is just the fastest way to fail. In the end, getting this first step right, it isn't just part of the process, it's the entire game.